Now then, foresight and futures intelligence overall can obviously be used for multiple or many purposes in a corporate setting. We see it most often being connected with strategic planning, strategy tests, uh, innovation and R&D, as well as risk management. At least those are the main topics or the main processes we see foresight work typically being connected with. But at Aurecon, then Noriko, what are your key use cases here? What do you use foresight for? Which key processes is foresight work then connected with in your case?
So we have three probably key areas in how we apply and use foresight. The first is, as a consulting engineering company, is to work with clients and apply foresight into our client work. And that can be either in a pure foresight process and helping clients understand what the future might look like, or using foresight as part of how we deliver our services. So, for example, we help to build and design infrastructure that's going to last for 100 years. In some cases, one project I know of is talking about a 200-year lifespan for a piece of infrastructure. So one of the things that we do there is we take some of the foresight frameworks and foresight understanding of transition, understanding of how change happens, to help inform the requirements of the designs to be resilient to the types of transitions we might see over the next 100 years. So understanding what does the first wave of decarbonisation look like, then what might a second wave of decarbonisation look like, to understand what kinds of shifts and what kinds of changes infrastructure might need to make in order to respond to that. Another one is the fact that if you're building a large new precinct, that you might have to account for different rates of change. The rate at which the business models of retail might shift comparative to, say, some of the energy uses, and understanding those different rates of change is one thing that we use foresight for within the business as part of our design work, as part of the advice that we give clients. A second aspect, and the both next two aspects are more internally focused. So looking at how do we use foresight as part of our innovation system and as part of our innovation strategies. So that ties into that R&D perspective of where foresight can be used to identify what are the new technologies, what are the new services, how might user needs change, and what might we need to do as a company to innovate, who might we connect with in the broader innovation ecosystem to respond to that. So that is a second aspect of how we apply foresight. And that's very much more in the corporate foresight traditions, very much more in that using horizon scanning, identifying weak signals, and then using that collection of insight to be distributed across the business to inform what might they need to create that's new, what might they need to adjust to respond to something that's shifting. So that's the second aspect. The last bit is the role that foresight can play into strategic planning and strategic processes. So we run internal foresight strategic projects that might feed into a piece of strategic planning for the organisation, that might feed into a piece around growth for the organisation. Like what are the indicators that will be the next generation of growth for Aurecon? And then the other aspect around that is, well, what kinds of new skills might we need to respond to due to shifts in how engineering is changing, during shifts in how infrastructure is changing, during to new technologies like machine learning and those data-heavy Industry 4.0 changes. So what does that then mean for how we work and the work that we do? And then what might we need to build around that to anticipate that? So to summarize, I suppose the first thing is how can we help clients understand and anticipate the shifts that might come over the lifespan of the infrastructure that they might be building or transitioning. The second one is, well, what can we find that indicates new opportunities for innovation and R&D and inform and provide that long-term vision for our own responses. And then the last one is, how can we anticipate what might change for Aurecon strategically as a business?